Hey guys, it's Andrew. Been a little while, but we're back with another build video. This week, I'm going to take this pile of reclaimed white oak I got from my friends over at Urban Lumber Winnipeg, and we're going to turn them into 5 beautiful sitting benches for a local elementary school. It's going to be an awesome build. I'm excited for the finished product, so stay tuned. So a couple of years ago, before COVID really hit, my old grade 1 teacher, who's now a principal, actually reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in making 5 8-foot long sitting benches. I obviously jumped at the opportunity, but between COVID and moving my shop, it's just been delayed a couple of years. So finally excited to get this one through the shop. It's going to turn out really great, but for right now, we're just going to get started breaking down the rough lumber. I'm going to start off by ripping these down on the bandsaw. They are, rough sawn. They're very, very dry. Some of this wood was like 4% moisture, so definitely not worried about anything moving on me. But I did want to make them narrower and relaminate them so that I could get them through my jointer. My jointer is only 6 inches. These boards were 11 inches at the widest. So we're going to rip them down here at the bandsaw, just make them a little bit more manageable around the shop. And with the 8-foot length, it was definitely the right call. They were still a challenge to maneuver through the jointer for sure, as you'll see shortly. Something you may not know, unless you've been following me for a long time, is that these large milling tools, and I say large, it's a 6-inch jointer, but this is relatively new to me. I had been using hand planes when I did need to square things up, or jigs. Learning to use these has definitely been a learning curve, and I've been lucky enough to have some good friends. My buddy TJ, who runs Wood and Grain Winnipeg, makes some crazy intricate cutting boards, as well as the guy who sold me the tools, my dad's friend Chris, have both been very, very helpful and gracious in sharing their knowledge and, accelerating my learning curve to the point where I'm getting the square, clean results that I wanted out of this equipment. YouTube is great, but sometimes you just need that in-person assistance, and I'd encourage anyone picking up woodworking to make friends who are better than yourself, and then, leverage their skills and really try to learn from them as best you can. The majority of my machinery and tools were secondhand, new to me, like I said, from my dad's friend. One thing I did by myself was this TS75 track saw. I'm a big fan of the Festool platform. The dust collection is bar none. The tool quality and adjustability is fantastic. I know a lot of people call this saw underpowered, but when you're coming from an M18 fuel circular saw, which is a great saw, it doesn't compare. It's enough. This is having no problem with this white oak ripping waterfall out of joints. This tool I have zero rep by. With the waterfall cut on both sides, I'll now cut the legs to length, and I'm going to mark out for some dominoes. I know there's a lot of debate as to whether the domino is cheating or whatever. You know what? I don't care. I'm a business. I could do this the old school way, but quite frankly, it is just too efficient not to have in your shop. If you are a professional or even a hobbyist, if you have a business and this is a source of your livelihood, this is a tool you should have in the shop for sure. As I get those dominoes in, I'm just going to throw them together for a quick dry assembly, make sure everything looks good, and also helps me just keep track of which part goes where. This was my first time doing waterfalls, and definitely a little intimidated, but at the end of the day, it's just a big miter. So just taking my time, laying things out, making sure it all is going to slide together really nicely. Then when I go to do the glue, I'm just going to put some tape just to make sure I don't get too much squeeze out when I apply that clamp. I don't want to be trying to sand in that little corner there, but she worked out really well. The dominoes kind of seemed to act like cauls and to guide it into a proper fit with the clamp. So everything came out nice and square. Really, really happy with the end result. Normally around this time, you'd probably see a lot of tape and a lot of epoxy coming out. I actually decided to go with this walnut wood filler that I got from a furniture company that was going out of business. I liked the way that the brown went with the color of the wood around the knots, and it saved an awful lot of taping and potentially really messy small epoxy pours. So I think it was the right call in the end, and it did end up looking really good when finished. Just a friendly reminder, the Festool Rotex does need exercise. They are not sedentary beings. You do need to take them for a walk occasionally. Both my Opa on my dad's side and one of the 70s tools have had issues with fine sawdust and wind damage, so I'm very careful around that. And the best thing that I've bought to help mitigate that risk is the CTE 48 dust extractor from Festool. When combined, even with the Rotex using 80 grit on the aggressive setting, there's no dust. I will still wear a respirator, but really don't need to. Once again, we're going to go back to our domino just to get these leg assemblies together. Nothing too intricate here. These are going to be in a school with a bunch of kids. I don't need anything flimsy, so we're just going to go with a really solid basic design, which I think is going to really accent that waterfall and make sure that is the statement piece of the bench. And assembly, I wish it was this fast, but you know, unfortunately, a lot of glue, a lot of dominoes, a lot of clamps. This cut might look kind of sketchy, I really promise you it's not. The track is clamped on both sides, the saw is securely on the clamps, and the workpiece is clamped to the workbench off camera. So even though it does look as though there's a lot of things relying on each other, I really just have to apply pressure to the saw here. Nothing super fancy going on here. I just thought that it would look nice to add a chamfer to the inner edge of these benches. Just a little detail. Very few people will probably notice it, but I did think it looked a lot better than the bench did when I'd mocked it up without the chamfer. We're going to recess some threaded inserts and leveling feet into these benches. I'm going to use this forstner bit on my drill press, unless I break the drill press, in which case we're going to be very confused for a moment and then realize I can screw it back in. Then, you know, check all the other ones for tightness. So, not going to make that mistake again, but it was definitely a moment of confusion. So I'm just going to recess these in. Like I said, I didn't really feel the need to clamp these down to the table. I felt that I was being safe enough with the way the bit was moving, so I could just hold it into place. Here I did have to clamp it just to actually be able to, you know, work on it. Just drilling a couple holes for the threaded inserts and then countersinking them. I was lucky enough to get a big whack of these threaded inserts and leveling feet from, again, the same local furniture company. They went out of business and I was able to get a lot of hardware that I use quite frequently for a really, really good price. So I got a lot of that good quality walnut wood filler, a whole case of these threaded inserts, and these really nice little leveling feet. Once those are installed, we're just going to give the whole piece a quick sanding. I'd rather do it here and now than do it while everything's assembled together. It just makes for a much more enjoyable sanding experience, if you can call sanding enjoyable ever. I'm just coming in with some more threaded inserts and some bolts to hold these legs into place. I went ahead and pre-finished the underside of the bench before installing these, and while you can't see it, I did it off camera, I did decide to go ahead and finish the legs before installing those, just to make sure that if anything moves over time, you're not going to have unsightly gaps. We'll just flip the bench over and start finish sanding. So just knocking off any pricklies or anywhere where the knot is going to be a hazard. These are going to be in an elementary school, so I do just have to be a little extra cautious, making sure that all of the harsh edges are smoothed over, really keeping them child-friendly and child-safe. And to finish it off, I'm just going to go on with a coat of Osmo Poly-X in the raw natural color. This is probably my favorite wood finish right now. I know a lot of people are fans of Rubio. I have not tried Rubio myself. I may give that a shot in the near future, but so far I've really enjoyed the sheen and the finish that I've been getting with the Osmo Poly-X. And after rolling on and buffing off the excess, this is what we're left with. A really nice sheen, ready to go off to its forever home. If you enjoyed this build, I'd love it if you'd like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.